Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce today Rocio Daga Portillo, who is a research fellow in the Institute for the Near and Middle East at LMU Munich, working on the project Toledo Law, Religion and Property in a Society of Transformation, which is producing editions of 10 Arabic documents from the Cathedral of Toledo, composed between 1083 and 1391. A period during which Arabic was still very much the legal language adopted by the Christian ruling. She is also a senior researcher in the project Living Tradition, the Pseudo-Clementine Octateuch, as a historical document from late antiquity to the Arab-Muslim Middle Ages, which is based at the University of Fribourg in Switzerland. Rocio is also teaching at Munich and has held teaching and research position in Madrid, Eichstätt, and Princeton in the past. And today we get to hear about Clement as authority in the Arabic Nomocanons. Rocio, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I thank you for the invitation to speak here. And I'm really honored because I really like very much this research conferences that you offer via Zoom. It's really very well organized and has very nice standard, very high standard. So thank you and hello to everyone. Now I will share my screen. Let's see, I need to, yeah, put it just in right modus. Today I will speak about Clement of Rome, traditionally regarded as the first father of the church and a disciple of the Apostle Peter. Early Christian authors give different accounts of the position in the Roman Episcopal Succession. Well, these are the points I'm going to deal with, and starting with a small introduction on Clement and works. Irenaeus of Lyon, against heresy, describes Clement as the successor to Anacletus, making him the fourth bishop of Rome. Tertullian, however, claims that Clement was ordained directly by Peter, and Jerome lists him as the fourth bishop of Rome after Peter. According to the tradition, it's possible that Clement was exiled and died as a martyr under Trajan, and that he was buried in Inkerman cave monastery in Crimea. Clement is best known for the first epistle, a letter to the Church of Corinth, to the Corinthians. This is one of the oldest extant Christian documents and is often considered the earliest affirmation of the principle of apostolic succession. A second epistle or homily, once attributed to Clement, is now dated to the 2nd century and is regarded as pseudo-Clement. In the 9th century, we have the false decretals, a work attributed to Isidoro of Sevilla that contains a series of letters of Clement. This work was produced in the Carolingian Empire, and the aim was to free the church and its bishops from the control of the state. These decretals portrayed even the earliest popes claiming absolute and universal authority, and at the same time they articulate a hierarchical order. The bishop as monarch in his own diocese, but on the other hand, this metropolitan was a primus inter parens, and he should take the opinion of the other bishops and cannot do anything without the consent of the other bishops. And this is interestingly that this is also found in our Arabic canons. In the Clementine writings written in Arabic, Clement is the intermediary through whom the apostle teach the church. So we can speak about 3 stages in the history of Coptic canon law, early Coptic canon law. The first stage is the introduction of canons into Christianity, and is attributed to the apostles. So we have at this stage the canons of the apostles. It would be like the it's just referring everything, all the canons to the apostles. The second stage, well, there are many quotations about this in my Nomocanons, my Arabic Nomocanons. Even Assal mentions the canons of the apostles were established when they were on the heights of Zion after the ascension of Christ, when the Holy Spirit had descended upon them. And before, they separated and spread all over the world to announce the gospel. The second stage is the stage of Clementization of the canons. And it is these canons of the apostles, some of them, some of the collections are attributed to Clement. And the task of Clement is to transmit and teach these canons to the believers. And a third stage is the introduction of the canons of Hippolytus of Rome. So this is mostly the base of much of the Coptic canon law and the early stage. But let us go to the Macarius collection that I will introduce you and introduce the works of Clement in this collection. The Macarius collection is the largest compendium of Coptic canon law in Arabic. This it has been preserved in numerous manuscripts, and the oldest is dated 1353, and there is a probably earlier one, but it's not clearly dated. So the origin of the collection is due to the date of the manuscripts and the fact that even Kabar didn't mention Macarius, and even Kabar is also beginning of the 14th century. So we had to date the collection in the first half of the 14th century. The canonical materials of this early period include the Pseudo-Apostolic Church orders, local and synods, and the first ecumenical synods, the writing of the Coptic patriarchs, legal text of Byzantine origin, ascribed to Nicaea, and then the latest work, and then we have writing of the patriarchs, and the latest is the Patriarch Cyril III Ibn Laklak, which was Patriarch of Alexandria from 1235 to 1243. So we have here some of the manuscripts, because as I mentioned, there are many, and I have been using the Paris manuscripts, Vatican and Mardin especially. And now just content of the Macarius collection. We have the apostolic writings, and then the 82 canons of the apostles transmitted by Clement, the canons of the apostles on the priesthood, the instruction of the apostle, Wasayat al-Rusul, apostolic canons, Qawanin al-Rusul by Clement, and this we are going to talk about them a lot. There are 71 and 56. And this is the way that the Coptic use the apostolic canons in these two sets of canons. The Didascalia is also there, the letter of Peter to Clement, and then we have a very interesting book, Statutes of the Old Testament, that is mainly penal law, and local affairs for, as I mentioned, ecumenical councils, pseudo-patristic writings from Hippolytus, Basilius, Chrysostomo, Epiphanius, Gregor of Nyssa, Athanasius of Alexandria, and mainly the fathers that are mentioned. Then we have the books of the Canons of the King, that is Byzantine law, Octateuch of Clement, the provision of Coptic patriarchs, or the Christodoulos, Michail of Damietta, Gabriel Inturaic, Abu Sulh, even Laklak Abu Sulh. We will see also some of them today. In Clement concretely, we have Tatalusat Rusul, which titles or canons. Titles are canons of the apostles, transmitted by Clement. Then there are 82, and they are originally are Melkites. The Kawanin Rusul 71, and transmitted by Clement, and 56. They are called Kawanin Kanisa, and they are transmitted by Clement. And then the Epistle of Peter to Clement, and the Octateuch, the 8th book of Clement that includes the Testamento Domini, and it has part of the Apostolic Constitution in it. I will not talk much about this because this is the project of a colleague. So, and then the 50 and 71 canons of the Apostle are almost the same than the 22 or the 82 or 81 of the Melkites, transmitted by Clement. And the Risala of Peter to Clement is not quoted in the Nomocanons, but I will mention something also about it in our talk. And these are the patriarchs or canonists we are going to deal with. Abu Sulh, this is the first one who writes in Arabic for the Copts canon law, but his origin could be Syrian or Greek origin. And then we have Ibn Turaik, Patriarch Ibn Turaik, who tried to reform the church through the canons. Michail of Damietta, who has a huge, like 2 volumes of 500 pages each of canons, and Ibn al-Assal, which is the most famous and still today used in the Coptic church. So I speak about the Abu Sulh. It has no mention of the Didascalia and no mention of Clement. He just mentioned synods, Paul and Basil. But at the end of Abu Sulh, there is an addition, and I am sure that this is just not Abu Sulh. I'm pretty sure about that. But in this addition, we find Clement and the Didascalia and Clement, and yeah, Clement is just mentioned about fasting and no Eucharisty and then Good Friday and so, and then and the second mention is just saying washing the dead must be taken from Dionysius. That means the monks are not allowed to wash the dead, and not from the second book of Clement, which I imagine this is the second of Octateuch. We go, I mean, as I say, this is just an issue that Abu Sulh in the 10, beginning of 11th century, still didn't have Clement as a source. But then the first one is Ibn Turaik. And Ibn Turaik use Didascalia always is the first book, and then Clement. Clement 56, 61. But when he quotes the name of Clement, all canons referring to the 56. I really don't know if about the ascribing to Clement the 71, but this will change later. Then we have these other sources, Paul and councils and the fathers, and the canon of the kings are also introduced already in the 11th, beginning of the 12th century. And when Ibn Turaik speak about Clement, he just take him for legislation of bishops in relation to political power, against persecution, and defining Christianity especially through the canonical books of the scriptures. So that we have here some examples. So a bishop must be consecrated by 2 or 3 bishops. A bishop must not abandon his seat. Those who castrate himself willingly cannot be consecrated bishops. And you see that these are canons that also appear in Nicaea. So they are standard canons that have been already given in the councils. The bishop of all provinces must designate one to precede them. So this is the hierarchical part of the Clement, and they must not take important decisions without him, and he must do anything. He cannot do anything without taking the opinion of the others. So it's the primacy of the bishop. And bishop here means also at some point patriarch, because that was not differentiated in Coptic canon law for a long time, and maybe also in other churches also. And twice a year, the bishops should meet to discuss the issues of the community. Then there is a relation of a political power. If a bishop asks for help to a political leader and the later takes over the church, the bishop is deposed and expelled. Those who insult the king or leader, they will be punished. If someone confronts the bishop, he must be deposed. So this is also ascribed to Clement, and the bishop must not take profit, this discipline, but also for the bishop. And not take profit or give the property of the church to their families, even if they are poor. And he should not trade with money of the church. If a bishop dies, he inherits for his heirs. This canon will change because I have found other saying the opposite. But in this case, the bishop might have a wife, a children, or slaves. And then the canon say it should be unjust for the church to take over the bishop's property. The property of the church administered by bishop must be done for the poor and the foreigners, and it's not permitted for the bishop to collect land taxes. They must devote themselves to the church, and if not, he's deposed. All of this reflect exactly probably the real practice of what was going on, what was happening. And it's not allowed for the bishop to ordain family members, so that that he's not permitted to make a bishopry hereditary. So we see all the problematics nepotism and so on. And also simonies, also we have also examples. Then Ibn Turak also brings him as the one who established the canonical books of scriptures, and so it's the names of the Old and New and Old Testament are given, and they are, in this case, Ibn Turak is following also the Greek order of the books. And then there is a question of celebrating the feast. So Pascha should not be celebrated with the Jews, and bishop is if he has not he cannot he must fast during Lent and Wednesday and Fridays, and if not, he's deposed and a lay person is temporarily excommunicated. So there is a definition now, putting the rules and defining the Christianity here. And then, yeah, those baptized by a heretic must be baptized again. If it's a bishop, priest, deacon, gamble or drink, must be seized if he does not stop. And then we have a different way of dealing with Clement. Michail of Damietta, which wrote 2 huge books, he just mentioned the 56 canon and 71 canons of the apostles. All the pictures of these books are the edition of these works from Athanasius, the monk in in Egypt, Athanasius Al-Macari from Macarius monastery in Egypt, and they have not been translated. So I have been using the manuscript and the books, and Michail of Damietta almost doesn't mention Clement, but mention the canons. And anyway, when he mentions Clement, it's also very interesting, because at the beginning he has a chapter on the creed, and he just say, he just bring a canon that says, "Fight with a sharp sword the ungrateful and the infidels who do not believe in Christ, and sheath the sword for the sake of the perfect creed. Do not take the opinion of important officials, nor accept bribes when giving laws." And the first part of the canon is just paraphrases of the Quran. So it's you see always the footprints of Islamic environment. It could also be an influence of the Crusaders, because Damietta was under the Crusaders for a while. But it is found also in the letter of Peter to Clement, because I thought at the beginning it could have been a later edition, because it was at the end of the chapter. But if it's a later edition, still it's found in the letter of Peter to Clement. And then then there is another canon of Clement, which is that just we command all bishops regarding the canons that you confirm, you are firm in them, and you will live and be safe, and peace will be with you forever. If you do not accept and obey the canons, war will be among you forever. So we see the important role of laws and canons in this Coptic environment. And he also mentions Clement, saying that he has a book of canons. Mushaf is also the name for Quran, Mushaf al-Qawanin, and is transmitted by Clement, and he say it's a canonical book, together with the Old and New Testament. And all canons ordered to you, O bishop, patriarch of leader of the church, has been you had to follow all the canons by Clement in his 8 books. So he introduced here the Octateuch. But the 8 books, he also mentioned in another place, it should not be shown to the community of the believers, because they comprise canons and laws that are to be commanded only by the chief priests. So they are restricted just for the use of the chief priests. And at this point, we have some kind of secret ecclesiastical regulations here, and a book that get this kind of secrecy. Even in another sources, it said that is a secret book. It's just with this, and it should not be read. So from here we go to Ibn al-Assal, which is the main canonist of the Coptic Church, and he mentioned his own sources and uses a quote when quoting the sources. So he has the Canon of the Apostles, Gospel, Epistle of Paul, Catholicon, which are the epistles that are not Paul epistles, and the books of the Torah. And regarding canonical work, he's mentioned the canons of the apostles, that from the Melchites, and also the East Syrians introduced them or translated them or made them available. They are established among the Jacobites also, and this is a Melchite version what he's using. So then we have the canons of the apostles transmitted by Clement, and these are they were translated into Arabic by the Melkite and the Assyrians in one book, the 82 canons, and also they are also among the Jacobite, and they are contained in Fiqh al-Nasraniyya. But the Copts edited them, or they are using them in two books, the 56 and 71 canons. And all these three books are not differ not very much between them. This is what Ibn Assal tell us. So he also used Didascalia and then Epistle of Peter to Clement and councils and the fathers and the Book of the King. So he's using all the sources available, and he systematized the corpus of canon, numerated all the canonical, starting with the enumeration of the canonical books of scripture, and then baptism. Then he deals with the patriarch and the bishops and so on, until going into civil law. But he used all canonical sources known in his day. This is for sure, and he attributes the 56 and 71 canons to Clement. So he says from the beginning, I'm using Clement canons. And in his book, he attributes, as I mentioned, the canonical books to Clement, the establishment of the canonical books to Clement, and also the liturgy of the West. He said is attributed to Peter and Clement. As I say, now I cannot go to much into all the canons of 56 and 71. As Clement in the letter of the Peter appears also giving canons, and then Peter just tell him that he should establish a feast and make the Feast of Flowers, which the nation celebrate for their idols, into a feast for the Mother of Light, as commanded by the man of God, the vessel of the Spirit, and the tongue of the sea, Paul the chosen. And also Paul commands Clement to become a judge among the people. So for you, my son Clement, and for those who are in your rank, it is permitted to judge among the believers and to command them according to what the Holy Spirit reveals to you. Whoever opposes you or contradicts you, he shall be cursed until the day of judgment. God's hand wrote for me these commandments, and he gave them to me in Mount Tabor on the day of his ascension into his glory. So this is just a small, a quick survey, and I just come to the end about Clement. I would like maybe also mention something about the role of the law, because we have this reification of the law, of religion by means of the law. The law becomes the core of religion, and this is something that I see all the way through these canon books. Almost the word religious does not appear, but it's appear the law. If you follow the law, you will be safe. And this is it's just very present in these Coptic sources. So just to conclude, Clement stands for the dignity of the episcopal office, and this is reflected in Eventurait, that only mention Clemens, or especially mentions Clement for the role of the bishop. He's also a judge and a leader of the church. Clement stands also for orthodox faith versus heresies and endurance in times of persecution. Relationship between church and ruler, especially church independence of temporal authority. and the establishment of the canonical books of scriptures. But there is a difference how, as I have mentioned, how he's mentioned or quoted or by the different in the different nomocanons, and while even today attributes to Clement standard canonical issues or topics that are taken from Nicaea and from other existing canons. Michail of Damietta, who also make use of the 56 and 61 canons, does not mention Clement. But when he mentions it, in Michail of Damietta, I have always the impression that he is using Clement to introduce new canons. It's something that doesn't happen even today. And then we have this, I mean, he, even without quoting him as all the time, but he just said the books of canon of Michail of Damietta is a canonical, no, of Clement is a canonical work together with the Old and New Testament, and as author of the Octateuco, he made this. I mean, he gave weight to this book, this Octateuco, as a canon source, and then he, as I say, he introduces sometimes for weird canons, I would say, or just spurious canons like this regarding the fighting with the sword against unbelievers who reject the creed. And this canon also, so as I mentioned, reflects this crusade milieu and Islamic milieu, especially because it's a paraphrase of Quran. On the other hand, even Assal will restore the role of Clement, because he really systematically used these canons of Clement, and then the authority of Clement is established because he's quoting also that it has been transmitted by Clement, so that in the 13th century we have Clement with established role, and even Al-Assal leaves aside these spurious canons. So in this way, Clemens reached our days, because even Al-Assal corpus remains the foundation of the canonical tradition of the Coptic Church until today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for illuminating paper. This is a very interesting case. We can see how one of the characters of the project is used throughout time to and put as the source for a variety of things, in this case in legal context. And it looks like compared to the other traditions, this is far more documented case. We do have the Octateuch of Clement here and there, but here we get the people who do it and people who accumulate text to add more text to that. And we also get a bit of Clement saying things from the Quran, which is a very interesting thing. I have a question to start off. The 85th, what in Greek is the 85th canon of the Apostle, right? That's put under the name of Clement. That has at the end of it a list of the books of the Old Testament and the books of the New Testament. And in Greek, That includes the two letters of Clement and the 8 books of Clement, which in that context indicates the apostolic constitutions.
Yeah.
And we have a similar thing in Syriac, but in Coptic, so pre-Arabic Coptic. I think in the only list that I know, it's only under the New Testament you get only the 2 letters of Clement, not also the 8 books of Clement. Do you happen to know how that list of the books of the New Testament looks in Arabic context?
I mean, we have the Greek list really. So I think they were taken from the Melkites. I think the Copts didn't have a big role until the Renaissance, until the 13th century. So we see how they're starting writing canons in the 11th century, and then they're taking from the Greek, yeah. But maybe there are other manuscripts that bring something different, other works, but no. I mean, they're following the Greek, yes.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Madalena, you have a question?
Yes, I thank you very much, Rocio. Very interesting. So I have a couple of questions, and perhaps I will start. So with something which sparked my interest from the conclusion. So if I understand correctly, you mentioned that Michail of Damietta, so was it him who added some sort of a new canons under the name of Clement? Was it him or not? Did I miss that?
Yes, yeah.
And so, and one of them was that spurious thing connected a little bit with crusade milieu about the using of swords. But you also mentioned that he introduced some new canons under the name of Clement. Are they related to the same sort of?
No, not related like this. It's just sometimes it's a pity I don't have now the examples. I don't know why I just missed this, but it's just like if there is a canon about the bishops that cannot be maybe it's not cannot be ordained in except for 2 or 3 or 2 or 3 within the presence of 2 or 3 bishops, and then
Okay.
maybe he just no this is a Nicaea canon also. So this is, but then maybe he introduced some like a sub canon to this, like saying maybe uh, the metropolitan, although this is also the same in Nicaea, is the same canon, but maybe like the metropolitan is should be present, and then, but it's something like it's not an usual canon. It's just like always something. It's a pity I didn't get the examples of this.
No worries. But I was curious whether it's in the general direction. But you're saying that it's more like subcanons to the what we usually have in the Nicaea.
Yeah.
If I can, I have,
Yeah.
if possible. So you mentioned that in the case, so for these different, so for Michail of Damietta and Abu Suq and all these, so there are different versions of canons of the councils introduced in the canonical collections, yeah?
Yes.
But I noticed that there are some differences, but they always start, or I don't know, they always start with the canons of Nicaea.
They use them a lot. I'm really very surprised. Even to Dijk and Abu, they use a lot. I can see also because I have tried to just put some information aside so that that's not so long. But yeah, So they are, I mean, Abu Sulh and Michail of Damietta are using it a lot. With no, Abu Sulh, even to like Michail of Damietta introduces already the 84 canons,
Yes.
which are the pseudo-Nicene,
Mhm.
and then they are completely established. So even Assal speaks of Nicaea canons and say the 20 and the 84,
Mhm.
just like a normal uh, set of Nicaea canons. But then it means that then this 84 were not introduced at the time of
Mhm.
even to like, and that has been just late 11th century were introduced in the canonical works of the Copts. This is just my impression, but it's not completely sure. It's just that they're not used by Abu Sulh and even Turaik.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that mainly, yeah, the Nicea is really very, very,
Very
very,
present.
very present.
And unlike the West Syriac tradition, where they at least mention the Chalcedon and they have a bit of it, there's nothing of this in the Coptic tradition, yeah?
After you mean after Macedonia?
Yeah, so there is no, because I see here, so in all this, so sometimes you mentioned that there are some canons from also Antioch or Ancira, or
Yeah,
in the case of Michail of Damietta, you have even more, like you have
yeah,
Sardica and Carthage and
yeah.
Ephesus. So you have sort of all the expected
Main.
ones,
Mhm.
but you never have anything from Chalcedon. Am I right?
No, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No. Thank you for the question.
Yes, thank you.
Mm.
I have another question about the letter of Peter to from Peter to Clement.
Mhm.
You mentioned somewhere else in one of the slides the letter to from Paul to Clement, but I imagine that's a typo for Peter to Clement.
It was Peter, yeah. I think I
Yeah.
should have been.
And this letter is the letter that circulates with the pseudo Clementines in Greek. It's the letter of Peter to Clement. Is it that the one? And because there are a number of satellitic letters that circulate with the pseudo Clementines.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry, but I'm at the same time happy that I can talk with you about this because I don't know anything about the Greek tradition. I keep only in the but I can tell you because I myself I have already starting. I'm thinking maybe I will edit this, and I have here the content. So you can tell me the content is just my son Clement, do not baptize anyone for a bribe, nor enter into bargaining or regarding baptism. So it's just there are morally laws and ethical instructions, like a little bit of the blessings. I mean, blesses is the one who care about the poor. So these things. So, but forgive whoever offends you. But this is have mercy on the orphan and the widows. Strive to build churches and monasteries, for they are the dwellings of the needy and the refugees of the world. And as for Sunday, let it be a feast day on which no work is done. I start reading the divine book. So I mean, you might say if this has something in common with the,
I will check and get back to you
yeah,
if
because
it's
this is
that letter.
yeah.
And I have an extra question about that. So this letter, I imagine it's that uh, out of a small group of letters that circulate with the pseudo Clementine narratives in Greek and in Latin, and they get sometimes one of them extracted and has a life of its own, like the one you showed us today. In Arabic, that letter has a really presence almost in every collection that you showed us. And it does, you can see how it works. It stresses the fact that, Clement, this Clement that writes all of these canons, it's straight up coming from Peter. And there are other, in that small group of letters, there is also the letter of Clement to James, a letter about the death of Peter. And it also, that functions exactly the same way in other contexts, because it's a letter from Clement to James describing how Peter made him, Clement, his successor.
Okay.
So it's you'll find it in Latin context a lot more, and in other places as well. And I was wondering if this letter of Clement to James pops up in these collections ever, or they use for that effect only the letter from Peter to Clement.
Only from Peter to Clement, yes. That so far as I know, yeah. Yeah. I think that it's the relation to the first, to the successor of of Christ is important for the Copts also, just to justify their position as the continuators of the tradition of the church, of the succession of the bishop succession in the Coptic church. Yeah.
Yes, Madalena, thank you, and then Maria.
Maybe just a brief question about the translation. So what do we know about the translation? From what language are they translated into Arabic? Do they come all from the same? Is it
Yeah.
Greek? Is it
No, really, and this is the problem, because at the end we don't have Arabic. We have a different language. We read Arabic, but it's a different language. The substract usually is Greek and Syriac. Yeah. So for the canons, we have subtracts from Greek and Syriac, and even Assal is telling us also the Syrians and the East Syrians, and the Nestorians and the Melkite have introduced these canons to us, because, as I say, until the 13th century they were not so active. These are the first things they wrote, and then this is. These are the substracts we find in Arabic, yes. Yeah. About the Epistle of Peter, I had to check more, but the canons, yeah, it's all the time like this. I'm dealing with another language different than Arabic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Okay.
Thank you, Rosie, for the fascinating paper. I'm sorry if my question is a bit tangential, but I was wondering, you mentioned Ibn Turaik talks about the different confessional groups that transmitted the canons, especially the canons of the apostles, the Melkites and Nestorians. I was wondering if at any point him or any of the authors defines these confessional groups, because I'm thinking, like, in the 13th century we have writers like Kirgis Al-Makin al-Ahmed, who defines the Jacobites, the Melkites, talks about their origins and things like that. So we have texts like that. I was wondering if we find anything like this in this collection.
No, really. I think I'm pretty sure that at that time it was much more pluralistic than nowadays, and they were sharing, of course, all this writing material that everyone needed, and I don't have any at this intellectual level, there was nothing that indicated that they were differentiating themselves, because even Assal, he was just collecting from everyone. He was, and he was in touch with Melkites. This is for sure because of the amount of, so and there is just a mention. They are just mentioned as Melkites and Nestorians and Jacobites. These are the names given, but this is, yeah. Thank you for the question.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Is that okay then? You mentioned in the presentation the works of Cyril ibn Lutlak, and is it works by him? I'm sorry if I missed that, but I was wondering, he has these letters, especially the ones to the king of the Ethiopians, or there's one he writes to the patriarch of Antioch, and there's a bit where it's especially has to do with Jerusalem and monasteries that they own. Are these included in these collections? Do you know, or any of these letters, or what works of Cyril? Or I'm sorry if I
No,
misremembered
in
that.
my manuscript it's not because it's canonical. But I know about this because he was just trying to keep Ethiopia attached to Alexandria, and then there were political issues going on there. So, and I know that, but no, that this are not in the Macarius collection. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you to you. And happy to see you also from here, Maria. We just.
Another question that I have, it's a two-parter. So these collections function in an accumulative manner. Things are added, every author that you describe, every compiler, every legal scholar in Arabic kept producing a new collection. Do we get things that are, you mentioned at some point canons of Hippolytus as source for one of the authors. I think
Almost
for
all of them.
almost all of them. Do we ever get the canons of Hippolytus put under the name of Clement?
No. Clement is only the canons of the apostles as ascribed to Clement, and
Please.
it is a new area, a new stage in the history of canon law and the Coptic of the Coptic. Yes.
So I didn't do that. What is in Arabic the Octateuch of Clement? Because I'm asking because in Greek would be the apostolic constitutions, if one wants to do that. In Syriac, however, it's the apostolic constitutions plus a couple of texts at the beginning, including apocalyptic things. And what is it in Arabic? What does that designate?
It's I mean the apocalyptic thing I have seen. It's just a like more the introduction. It's a kind of apocalyptic introduction, but then you have the Testamento Domini, and this is a big part of it. Then I mean, but then canons of the apostles also. So this is maybe the difference with the Syriac. I think yeah. It's something that I was afraid of going into the field of the colleague. That's why I just didn't do much. But I have the text and everything, but just I didn't prepare enough for this for today because I was afraid of going into his field. I mean, and
Sure.
yeah, and so that it has also. I mean, it has a big. Depending on which manuscript, I have seen that there is a lot of Syriac substrate, and also Greek. So both the Arabic Orthodox is coming from both traditions. Yeah.
So in Syriac, it comes the Octateuch of Clement, it contains the Testament of our Lord, so the Testamentum Domini. Then the Apostolic Church Order, so another collection that was taken in here, made under the name of Clement, which is not in Greek under Clement. And then the Apostolic Constitutions, and with the Apostolic Canons at the end. So the whole thing, this is what's going on in Syriac. And in Arabic, the collection that you described, is it consistently so in the manuscript tradition, or from one manuscript to another you get new texts jumped in? And the reason I'm asking that, in Syriac, I think the oldest witness of the Octateuch of Clement has the title in Syriac, the 6 books of Clement, and it's not the 8 minus 2. It's basically the same thing, but organized in a different way. And later on, it will be the 8 books of Clement. But here it's called like that. So there is a bit of variation, but also a big cluster, a core that works the same way in all manuscripts.
As far as I know, the Octateuch in Arabic is only in the Macarius manuscript, which are many manuscripts, but not many variances. So, so it's the same work.
So it's the same. Okay, so it's quite constant from one point to another. Okay. Well, on this note, if nobody wants to absolutely pressing ask a question, I'd like to thank Rocio for a very interesting paper, which I think really shows how one of these characters, Clement in particular, really functioned as a placeholder for all sorts of legal things that were there. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, all of you. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully to see you soon. Bye.